All right, all right. Hello. Hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next edition of STATURDAY Chat Live here on June 4th, 2022. I hope you all are doing well wherever you are in the world. And by the way, I always like to know where everyone is watching from. So please, in the chat, please put in where you're watching from, and it kind of gives me perspective on where everyone is at, and it's just nice to know. So, a few things. If you're new to the stream, new to the live stream here, I try to keep things between 30 and 45 minutes. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit less. I do my best to answer every question that is sort of posed or comment that's posed in there. However, I don't have the answer to everything at the top, in the front of my brain all the time. So if that's the case, then you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn or on my website or something like that. And I can do my best to follow up with you, assuming it's a very sort of short question. So I do my best to answer short questions as much as possible. So you can drop them in here or in the on LinkedIn or whatever else. So what is new? So it's a beautiful day here in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm at. It is sunny and like 70 and perfect. So after this stream, I'm going to go out and enjoy the day a little bit, sit out on my deck, I'm sure, in the evening, have a couple of cold drinks, and just enjoy this beautiful, beautiful weather. It's been seasonably cool, so it's been nice to be able to get outside and not not be too hot. Speaking of that, I know a lot of my viewers are in India, and I know you all are dealing with some very tough weather and sort of climate there. So I wish you all the best. I love you all to death, and I hope you get some relief soon. Yeah, so while I'm happy about the weather here, I know it's not the same everywhere, so I hope you all are doing okay. Okay, there. So what is new with me, with the channel, and so forth? I do want to point out that I have done some updates to my website. If you were listening to the live stream the past few weeks, you know that I've been trying to make it a bit better, obviously look better because it looked awful. Put it on the right domain and organize everything a bit better for you if you need to go find a playlist or a download or something like that. So I've done that. So just really quickly, and I'll get to the chat. It's good to see everybody. Get to the chat here in a second. So my website is just at bcfoltz.com. It's not /blog anymore. It's just at the root level there. If you need to find a playlist or something, so everything is under this YouTube sort of menu here. This right here is sort of the condensed playlist. However, if you go to Statistics 101 here, what I've done here is put all the playlists with the description of what you will learn in that playlist. And then if you hover over, it will tell you how many videos are in that playlist, the average video length, and then the total playlist length. So if you need to budget your time accordingly or whatever else, or you want to like watch through a topic all the way through, you will know at normal speed how long that will take you. So I try to make this a little bit better with a little bit more information. And of course, if you click on the view playlist, it'll take you right to YouTube on that playlist. So everything is much nicer looking, of course, and everything is designed to be informative and let you or anyone you might know that is watching the playlists how much time it might take to go through one. So that is under Stats 101. The PDF companion guides that I offer, I've been condensed into one page. Everything looks the same, but I just put, I was offering the PDFs for each individual video in these playlists, but no one was buying individual ones. It didn't make any sense. So I just put the entire playlist PDFs here. So you can click on those if you'd like to support the channel. And of course, you get hundreds of pages of content if you do that. So it helps you, helps me, and it's a win-win for everybody. So you can see kind of what they look like here. Again, I'm not trying to sell these or anything, but just kind of show you what they are. So the slide image is there, and then the transcript for that slide is also on that PDF. And then if you go to this link, it'll take you right to this spot in the video. And the whole PDF is like that. So if you need some study guides for less than the price of a tutoring session, you can get the entire thing for the playlist, which is a pretty good deal, I think, and help support me as well. The downloads and everything are still the same here. So if you're looking for a file that goes along with the video, and I'll tell you in the video or the description that there's a file available, you'll find that here. So that's pretty much where you would expect it to be. And then everything else is the same for the most part. If you have any general questions sort of about me or the channel, I'm kind of updating this FAQ for frequently asked questions I get. So you can always go to that and find some more information there before reaching out to me if there's something you need or whatever else. So again, I just wanted to make it a little bit better, make it look nicer, organize it a bit better for you so you could find whatever you need in a quick way. And that's all there for you, of course. So yeah, so I'm going to keep working on this as time goes by. I will say that eventually this site will be more than just YouTube stuff. So I want to make it just more about me in general. So certain hobbies I might put on here, some other stuff I might put on here. But of course, the YouTube link at the top will always take you to the YouTube stuff. Everything will always be under that menu related to YouTube. But there might be some other stuff on here if that's what you might need. So again, that is there. Excuse me. If you need it, I can go and put that in the chat. All right, so that's the updated website. If you need anything, it's easy to navigate, and you can find everything there. And again, I will improve it as time goes on. Okay, so all right, who we got here? All right, Azam, hello. It's good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. It's good to have you on the live stream. Abhijit, I think I'm getting that right. Again, as I always say, I do my best to pronounce everyone's name correctly because you are entitled to have your name pronounced correctly. But of course, I'm not always familiar with the pronunciations in certain parts of the world, so I do my best. So I think you've stopped by the channel before, so thank you. Greetings, all my wonderful, wonderful viewers in India. I'm from Pakistan. Excellent. Clark, what's up? So thanks for your message on, I think LinkedIn it was. So it's good to see you stop by. From the Philippines, excellent. Tanzania, Vodis, thank you for stopping by. This is great. Pushpam, welcome back. It's good to see you again, my friend. All right, Simbarashe from Zimbabwe, thank you for stopping by. Kalechi from Nigeria, awesome. Thank you for stopping by the live stream. And yeah, so Habajit, hi from India. Your videos are wonderful and very educative. Kindly keep making them. My salute to you. Well, you are very welcome. I'm glad you find the videos very helpful. So it is very kind of you to say that. So speaking of that, so where are we on the channel? So as of right now, I'm kind of planning ahead for the next sort of round of videos or playlists that I might do or topics that I might do. I'm also working towards at some point, in addition to the YouTube stuff, trying to create some other type content that will be sort of micro sort of courses, but that I either host somewhere or host myself or something like that. So I'm trying to think about how I might approach that. But honestly, I've spent the last month or so sort of working and conceptualizing how to work on my website. It does take a lot of time to do that, but that's sort of been working on for the time being. Obviously, during the summer, that is the lull period, especially for YouTube, because colleges are out, and the vast majority of my viewers are most certainly university level-ish students across the world. So the summer is a sort of a lull period. So that gives me time to think about what I want to do next, to map out things, and sort of go from there. So that's sort of what I'm doing now. And if you ever see me not post a video on YouTube for a while, I'm not gone away. I'm not done. It's just, I'm either working on something else. I'm working on other things that need my attention. I'm busy at work. I'm busy with my house or whatever else. So I'm not going anywhere. I just sort of from time to time take little breaks to keep myself fresh. Otherwise you get burned out. It's really, really easy to get burned out on doing something like YouTube. So these occasional breaks here or there are some things I need to do. It allows me to keep going. I've been going, as you may have seen, a couple weeks ago was my 10-year anniversary on my 10-year anniversary on YouTube. So to go that long and be that steady at it, you got to take breaks every now and then, because YouTube is not a moneymaker for education, especially in general. The people that make a lot of money on YouTube, do prank videos and cat videos and, just sort of stuff like that. Or people who can do it full time and devote all their time and energy to, making consistent everyday content. But that's not me. I have a full-time job and everything. So, yeah. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So there'll be some videos at some point now and then, but the live streams will keep going and we'll go from there. So saw your website for the first time. Very nice. Took some time to figure out the menus on my Android, but it's okay now. Yeah, I will say that I do need to do some optimization on my website with respect to mobile. That is a little bit... it's a little bit challenging because you have to have multiple devices and you have to there's some things on mobile that you can change, for the viewport. So desktop, tablet, mobile. There are some things you can change depending on the device, and there are some things you can't change depending on the device. So I'm trying to have to figure out, especially font sizes is a big problem, but I'm trying to figure that out. But I do think most people go to my website on some sort of desktop or larger device. I could be wrong. But I'll keep working on that as I continue to develop out the site and go from there. Kenichi, thank you. Congrats on 10 years on YouTube. Grateful for your videos with gratitude. Well, you're very welcome. And trust me, the gratitude goes both ways and maybe even more so my direction, because without you all, the channel wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't be the size that it is. It wouldn't have the interaction that it is. So really, it's you that make the whole thing sort of possible. And I do appreciate, all your support over the years, so I never take that for granted. So, all right. Question. I've noticed that in the last 15 or so years, the higher education textbooks have increasingly got unaffordable, but online resources are a superficial substitute for a serious learner. Your thoughts? So I will agree up to a point. There was a time where the price of new textbooks, like a print textbook, was growing rapidly. Of course, it was not growing as rapidly as the cost of tuition. The cost of tuition was a much steeper slope than the price of textbooks, but no one seems to address that. So, full disclaimer, I work for a company that makes textbooks, not as much so anymore textbooks. So I should just say that out front. So, for example, at my company, the way we do textbooks now is when students, it's called Cengage Unlimited. We call it CU, Cengage Unlimited. And depending on where you are in the world, I'm not sure who has access to it, but anyway. So a student just pays, for an entire semester, they pay one fee. It's like $130. And that's a flat fee for everything Cengage you use. So if your stats class uses a Cengage online courseware or textbook, it's $130. Then, let's say your Spanish class or something also uses the Cengage textbook or courseware. Well, that's included. So now you get two things for that price. If another course uses another Cengage thing, you get three things for that price. So the price is flat. And then the way the textbooks work is that if you have the online courseware, we just basically send you a textbook for the semester and then you send it back. And all you really pay for is the shipping. So you basically get the textbook for the semester for free, assuming you mail it back. Otherwise we're going to charge you for the book you basically took. So that's how we have approached affordability in higher education, is to offer this unlimited sort of semester-based or yearly based, you can do it however you want, model where a student gets everything in our catalog for every course they have for one price. That includes a physical textbook for the semester. So I think other companies might have sort of something similar. So the critique of college textbooks cost-wise was true up to about 2 or 3 years ago, but it's completely changed now. A lot of companies, this depends on where you are in the world, have changed their business model to make it more affordable for students in terms of their courseware and their book. Okay. But of course, that doesn't address the cost of tuition, which is at a much higher rate of growth over time than textbooks. So, yeah, and of course, one of the main reasons there are a lot of reasons for it. There's no one sort of thing. But in the United States, especially, a lot of the cost and tuition increase is because states have divested money from higher education. So as states put less money into their higher education system, the difference has to be made up for by students through either paying tuition or taking out loans to make up the difference in that divestiture. So that's sort of the economics of how a lot of this stuff works. But I do applaud the company I work for, Cengage, for addressing the affordability problem with respect to online courseware where you do your homework and the ebook and stuff like that, and physical textbooks, because it really has saved students millions, tens of millions of dollars at this point. So, but as far as the online resources being a superficial substitute for a serious learner, some are, some aren't. I would like to think that my channel is not a superficial substitute. I'm not saying you're saying that, but it depends on where you find content. It can or it cannot be. The one of the benefits of having a company like a Cengage or other similar companies that offer courseware and offer textbooks and stuff is that they're highly, highly vetted. Like the people who write those books are professors, have been professors for dozens of years, have teaching experience under their belt. They're experts in their field, and that's kind of what you're paying for. That's the trade-off. So it's again, you often get what you pay for, and then in the higher education space with textbooks and online courseware, you are paying for the authors and author team who write these things and write the questions for these products. That's what you're getting. That's what you're paying for. So, it's a little bit here, a little bit there. Everyone just has to like decide what they want to pay for that. So good conversation though, but it's a good question. Good question. All right. Let me see here. All right. Pushbam did my bachelor's in economics. Want to make a career transition to statistics. I'm not eligible for a master's and MS in Master's of Science in Stats. What's the way out? So my first question would be, why would you not be eligible for an MS in Stats? And then whatever the gap that you need to be eligible to do that, is there a way for you to make that up somehow? That's my first sort of comment. Another thing I could maybe suggest is that my guess would be that an MS in statistics requires some sort of bachelor's degree in math of some sort. That might be kind of the requirement to get into a master's level statistics program. One, maybe not all master's level programs have that requirement. So you can look around at different programs. Some may be a little bit more lenient in their prerequisites. Having come from an economics background, I think other programs might allow you to do that. You could also reach out one-on-one to the heads of these programs and ask them and say, hey, I have a bachelor's in economics. I've had all these other stats classes. I'd really like to pursue an MS in statistics. Is there a way to get conditional admission? Are there classes I could take, as a co-rec the first semester to meet those requirements? So maybe oftentimes working one-on-one with the program and not via like, informally, but like try to call them or email them or whatever else, you can maybe, get in that way through the personal touch, but then also look around other programs. Another idea, Push Pam, is to think of related masters that may not have that requirement. So if you do a master's degree, maybe in a field like data analytics or business analytics or something along those lines that don't maybe have that very strict math bachelor's requirement, that's sort of a backdoor way to get into a master's program that is a lot of statistics, but it's not an MS in statistics. You know what I'm saying? So you can find a tangential field that you can get into at the master's level that is heavily statistics based without it being an actual master's in statistics. The other benefit, if you do a master's degree in like data analytics or business analytics or something like that, you're going to get other classes that I think round out that better. So when you go to, it makes you much more employable. You broaden your skill set, not only statistics, but also data visualization, some programming, probably some optimization and stuff like that. It makes a much more well-rounded person to go into sort of a career path, potentially. There's no guarantees, of course, but there are several strategies there. Hopefully you got all that. There's some several strategies there you might want to consider as you pursue this sort of master's level path in statistics, whether that doing that exact thing or something related. But the personal touch always helps. Okay, excellent. What's the best way to, Harsh says, what's the best way to grasp more from your statistics playlist? And is the coding in Python/R? So the best way to grasp more from my playlist, honestly, is just to watch and take notes. I know that sounds old-fashioned, but take notes. You can also grab a used copy of a textbook, and you can grab a used copy of a textbook like this. I always hold this one up. So this is one of the books I work on in my day job. So disclaimer, I work on this book. I've been using this book for like 10 years, well before I even knew Cengage existed. So I love how it's written. But you can get a used copy of a book. And in addition to learning the conceptual aspects of statistics and working through, like, I usually try to include like 1 or 2, sometimes 3 problems in my videos, is to do some additional problems and just work through them. So you grasp additional content by doing it, So that's why I try to make my videos a mix of conceptual sort of overview and then, 1, 2, or 3 problems to go along with sort of the concept, and then go back and review it and look over it. That's the way to retain and grasp more from it. As far as the coding side goes, my channel is not based on any sort of programming language at all. It's really a mix of a lot of things. There are times when I use R because R does what I need best. Like I always say on this channel, R and/or Python, I guess, to me, is like a tool out in the garage that I go out and get when I need it. I use it, and then I put it back on the shelf. So I'm not a programmer or anything by day, but I know enough to be able to use it for certain things that I need it to do. Mainly, I stick to Excel. I stick to other software programs like Jump, JMP. I used to do things in Minitab. I haven't really touched SPSS in a while. So my channel is agnostic, really, to any sort of programming language or any program in particular. The one that I do use a lot, of course, is Excel. And I guess you could use Google Sheets as a substitute, but I use Excel because it's ubiquitous and everyone pretty much has access to that and/or Google Sheets. So, but the best way to grasp in general is just to go beyond the passive aspects of it. So obviously I offer those PDFs that you can buy for under 20 bucks. You can download those, watch the video. You have the transcript there. You can highlight, take notes, whatever. There's also notes pages in there, so you can take notes as you watch. So that's another way you can approach that. All right. So Shalindra, hope I'm saying that correctly. Greetings from India. Thank you very much. Thank you for educating us. You're very welcome. You requested to create some videos on multi-criteria decision making. I'll write that down. I have my little trusty notepad here, as I always do. Decision making. I will look into that. Thank you for the suggestion. I have about 10 ideas for playlists, like entire topics I would love to do. Just a matter of time. So, yes, the cost of college tuition has gone up insanely indeed. Yes, absolutely. And there are multiple reasons for that. If anyone tries to tell you it's one reason, they're full of crap. Because at least here in the U.S., it's multifaceted. It's a mixture of states divesting in higher ed, so the tuition has to be made up by students. The easy access to student loans can contribute. It's not the entire thing, like some people would have you believe, but it can contribute to the higher cost associated with college. Also, it just costs more to do things in universities now. Universities compete for talent like everyone else. Universities have costs and technology like everyone else. It's the costs just in general go up. So it's a multifaceted reason why it's gone up. So yeah, but the slope of tuition costs is crazy over time if you look at it. The days of someone maybe my parents' age being able to work a summer job or a part-time job and pay for all of their tuition and books and everything else is completely unrealistic fairy tale land now. That's not even possible for multiple reasons. So, okay. All right. Kalechi, have your playlist bookmarked. I'm working to become a pro in data analytics. Excellent. I had found you, then shopped around for more, but came back to you because your content is very clear. Don't stop. Appreciate. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for that. It's very kind words. I'm not going to stop. I do take breaks every now and then to refresh and to kind of think in the next direction, but I don't have any plans for stopping at all. But like I always say, I order my time in terms of like paying the bills and taking care of myself, physically. I exercise a lot. Mentally, I read a lot, and I need a lot of personal time, a lot of quiet. So YouTube, I have to fit in there when I can. Because no one pays me to do YouTube. It's, I get some ad revenue now and then, but right now it's like half what it usually is because of the economic situation. So I can't afford, honestly, right now to spend a bunch of time making videos, at least at this time. In the fall, when classes start again and everything picks back up education-wise on YouTube, that's usually the best time to do more stuff. So, all right, that's some interesting offer from our publisher. Yeah, very good to know. Yeah, Cengage Unlimited is a great deal for students. One flat semester price for everything, no matter how many classes you have. So if you were taking, 4, 5, 6 classes, theoretically, and all of them are using Cengage materials, like Cengage online courseware where you do your homework, where the ebook is, all that kind of stuff, and you get the book mailed to you for the price of shipping. If you for all 4, 5, 6 classes, you pay one flat price of like $130, give or take. That's like half the price of an old textbook for everything. Everything. Now, you don't get to keep the book or anything. You got to mail that back, but it's a hell of a deal. It's a hell of a deal. So yeah, absolutely. Azam says, I'd like to see more videos on time series and panel models. So time series is often requested. I do have some simple videos on time series, just like the basic sort of stuff. Measuring, error within, and stuff like that. But I'm very interested in time series stuff. So it's of course, if you go into econometrics, it's related, regression, related to regression. So something I might do at some point. you know, absolutely. Because I have a interest in it myself. Okay. Kenichi says, given the high cost of higher education together with accessibility on great content like yours online for no or very little cost, do you think we might see a decrease in the value of degrees? That's a very good question, and it's really hard to answer. As I'm sure a lot of you know, there's a lot of debate right now about the costs of higher education. At least here in the U.S., college enrollments are down around 4% or so. A lot of that is focused, however, it's not even. A lot of that is focused on like community colleges, 2-year institutions and stuff like that. Are hit the worst in terms of enrollment when enrollment declines happen. For example, where I was working on my doctorate at Indiana University, they hit enrollment records like ever. So it just like depends on where you are, the type of institution you are, and stuff like that. So the other thing I'll say about this is that the push for not requiring a college degree for certain jobs is interesting, but I don't think people that say stuff like that are being completely honest with people. And I also think that it depends on what field you're in. So, if two candidates come into or applying for a job, they have the same skill set, the same demonstrable skill set, like here's my GitHub, here's my Tableau dashboards, here's my Tableau, whatever they can demonstrate they can do. All else being equal, I have almost little doubt that the person who has the college degree is going to have an advantage for that, because going through a traditional college program proves, one, that you can stick with something for a long period of time. You can work through a complex and complicated system for a long period of time. Also, through the higher education process, you have gained connections. You have put yourself into networks. You have opened other doors. You've potentially gotten involved in research, hopefully, if you're doing it right. And there are other benefits that you get from being in higher education. So all things being equal, I still think the college degree is well worth it. So even in my case, like my student loans, because I did it all on my own, no one in my family was able to help me or wanted to help me, of the people that could. So I had to do it all on my own. So my college loans are higher than the mortgage on my house. Now my house is relatively modest, it's small and stuff like that. However, that just tells you the scale. However, when I did the math, even with my student loan payments and everything, I'm still making way more than I would have otherwise, even with all the student loan type stuff. So I guess that's just me. But I do think there are certain fields and certain companies where a college degree isn't necessarily needed, where it's a very specific skill that if you can do that very well, then they're more than happy to hire individuals who don't necessarily have a college degree. Of course, once you get into a company, a lot of companies have programs that can help you finish or get that degree, tuition reimbursement or something like that, that you can look into. So I think it's very situational. I think it's very situational. So it just depends. But the decrease in the value of degrees is mainly because we just expect everyone to have one now. And many times, having a college degree is a proxy measure for other things. So, when everyone has a college degree, then what makes it different than anyone else? What puts you, above, anyone else in terms of a job market or whatever else? I don't think that's really the question. The question here, the answer to this question is really what you make of that degree. If you just go to college and go through the motions and mark time and don't put any effort into what you're studying, or it's really hard for you to because you have other life things that just require your attention, and it's really, even though you want to, it's hard to put all yourself into that. It's more about what you do while you're there than being there, right? It's what you do when you go. And I always tell people if they're going to go to a college program, university program, is to not just go to go. Go to get involved. Go to network. Go to be on the cutting edge. Go to get involved in research projects. Go to get involved in other social type things. Go to make something of the time while you are there. That's the most important thing. Not just going by default. All right. Okay. All right, thank you. Are very, very welcome. Excellent. Excellent. Let's see. What are the topics that fall under advanced statistics that one need to know to be a machine learning researcher? So obviously statistics and machine learning are not, of course, the same thing. So you can look at this two ways. A lot of people consider having statistical knowledge as a prerequisite to go into machine learning and other stuff sort of like that, which I would tend to agree, but not always necessarily, right? So when you get into machine learning, engineering machine learning models, there's an overlap with traditional statistics, but it's not the same thing. It's a different way of approaching a problem. However, things obviously like linear regression is the continuous sort of classical model that you could use in machine learning. Logistic regression is the classifier version of that. So those are obviously very important. Multiple regression is also very important. I think if you have, a really good grasp of multiple regression, the decomposition of sum of squares, the building of models that are lean, that only use the most important variables, that's an extremely powerful benefit to understand those sorts of things. Obviously, decision trees are important. And of course, that branches out into random forest and all kinds of stuff. So there's an overlap between these two. But, under advanced statistics, I'm not necessarily sure how far you really need to go into advanced statistics. So the book, there it is. So one of my favorite books. This is not something I work on. It's actually a whole different company. So sorry, Cengage. One of my favorite books for more advanced statistics is Tabachnik. So using multivariate statistics. If you really want to go down into the weeds, this is a great sort of textbooky version. I really, really love this book. I use this book a lot as a reference. It is, it's fantastic if you want to go into more advanced. Of course, you also have, the ISL books and stuff. So, can you see that? Some of you already know what this is. So the Introduction to Statistical Learning, which is free. You can actually get it off the web. So I have this bound that I also use for a reference. You can use something like that. And there's another book that goes along with that. So there are lots of things you can learn and go a bit further into statistics. But I don't think it's necessarily to get like a master's or PhD in stats to be a machine learning type person at all. So it just depends on how far you want to go into that as far as the stats side of things. Okay. All right. Thanks for the detailed explanation. You are very, very welcome. Very, very welcome. Also, how much a PhD in computer science and PhD in statistics helps to build a research career. Excuse me. And pattern recognition and machine learning. well, it depends on the program and stuff like that. You might want to actually find a PhD in machine learning. I think they exist in certain places now. You actually get a PhD in machine learning. But it's a hard choice, right? Do you go more on the computer science side and the coding side of things, or do you go into more of the mathematical stats and content sort of side of things? And there are programs out there that sort of merge the two. The best thing to do about a question like this is to reach out to people that are in the field you want to work in and talk to them. So reach out to people on LinkedIn is obviously probably the best way. And you can cold message someone and just say, you know, you can just say something along the lines of, I'm thinking, I know you're very busy, but I'm thinking about working in a similar field to yours, and I'm looking for some guidance on an educational path. Would you mind, either just writing a paragraph about sort of how you did things, where you see things are going, or whatever else? And a lot of people are more than willing to write a few sentences, as long as it doesn't take 30 minutes to do, and they'll give you some advice. You can also post in LinkedIn groups about advice, but sometimes the best thing to do is start at the end and work backwards to where you are now, instead of starting now and trying to work forward in time. So, all right. Let's see here. Okay. Making sure, I'm going to go up through the chat and make sure I got everything so far that people have asked to the best of my ability. I'm not sure I can answer this on a live stream, but I'll take a shot. So what analysis method should I go for? So I'll stop there and say, what analysis method should I go for? Depends on the question you're asking. So it really goes back to sort of the question. So you can have the same data organized in the same way, but because you're asking a different question of it, your method will be different. So if I have data with 2 independent variables and 1 dependent variable, if your dependent variable is actually divided into 3 groups. Well, if you're going to have a dependent variable divided into more than one group, that's automatically problematic, because then you're going into a multinomial situation, and that gets very, very complex. I would, again, this depends on what you're asking, because there's another way to approach this that is not like regression based. So you either have to use some sort of multinomial, which actually this book covers, extensively, but kind of warns against, a lot. Problem is when you start dividing everything into different groups and try to find things, your errors just compound. They just, the errors just get completely out of control, and you have error everywhere. So it depends. It depends. I think you got to follow up here. So the 3 are primary, secondary, tertiary education completed. Is this ordinal in that way? It could. That's the thing about ordinal data. You can treat it as ordinal. You can treat it as continuous. You could treat it as categorical. You can do all kinds of things. Or should I go with 3 different DVs? What about fixed effects, least squares? Am I wrong here? Yeah. So, yeah, this is one of those things that would take a look at the research question and what you're trying to ask when you're talking about what method to use here. Also, whether or not if it's important to rethink the way that is organized in terms of data. In general, of course, especially, it's really, really complicated when you get into a dependent variable situation, when you have a dependent variable with multiple levels or you have multiple dependent variables. We tend to see things as running all the independent variables into one dependent, or all of our features into one target, or whatever else, because once you start splitting out all these different things, then it gets very, very hard to conduct that analysis. It's hard to interpret that analysis sometimes. So I would think about this question, Karam, a little bit more and how you want to organize, and I wouldn't even worry about the data. I would just put the variables on a piece of paper and try to draw lines, what's going where, and maybe think about how you might want to approach this. You could break it out into different models. So if you have a dependent variable with 3 sort of categories, you could make it, you could pick one of those and make it a logistic regression. For example, if my dependent variable is primary, secondary, tertiary, I could say, what if tertiary just gets a 1 coded and secondary or primary get a 0 coded? And I could look at it that way and look at it just in terms of tertiary. But once you start dividing these things out into multiple classes, especially on the dependent variable side, it just gets really, really, really complex and nasty. So, best I could do on that question without knowing about it further. Book suggestion for correlation regression. Are you talking about just those topics? I do have one. Hold on. There are others, I'm sure. So this book that I already held up is a good one. It does more than what you asked, but it covers those sorts of things. So you can look at that. And then specific to regression, this hasn't been updated in a while, but you can still use it as a reference. This is the Applied Regression Analysis and Other Multivariable Methods. So it's basically a book that really just focuses on regression. And the author is Kleinbaum. So again, this has not been updated in a while to my knowledge, but if you're looking for, more in-depth information, dummy variables, and then it gets into best regression, some more ANOVA type stuff. Yeah. So one of your all favorite topics, statistical inference using maximum likelihood estimation. So there's one. So yeah, this is a great book if you're just looking at more about regression specifically, and it's a pretty hefty book. So you can check that out. So that's that one. That's also made by Cengage, but it's not one that my team works on. I think it's a general statistics. We work in business statistics. This is general statistics, which is a different team, but I use this book as well for reference. So I have I have piles of books around me because of you all. It's all right. It's all good. All right. Okay. So, Portugal. Hello. Thank you. You are very welcome. Yeah, so I think I answered that for deep insights into correlation regression, the book I just held up. Of course, this is the Kleinbaum Applied Regression Analysis and Other Multivariable Methods. It also has a companion little book like this. So this is another one you can look out. No, I'm sorry. No, it's not. This is a different book. So this Dielman book is also good. So it's Applied Regression Analysis. So you can look into that. It's smaller. You can look at that. And this one focuses on a lot of output as well that you can look at. So this is a good book as well. All right. Where are we at? Oh, we're at 51 minutes. Thank you, Brent. You are very, very welcome. Very welcome. Can we get your WhatsApp support number? I don't have WhatsApp and I don't offer support. So sorry, Sky. I don't do either one of those things. Um, I just have LinkedIn and YouTube. That's it. That's it. And just regular text messaging. So, all right. Thank you for your explanation. My research question is actually about the digital divide. I'm researching what effects access to broadband internet has on educational attainment. So, this is my morning OJ. So, Kareem, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, your name incorrectly. You might want to reconceptualize how you're defining educational attainment. So sometimes it's not necessary to have multiple levels of a dependent variable. Sometimes it's just easier to have one dependent variable. You can either make that continuous, such as, percentage completing college. That could be a continuous variable, something like that. Or you can make it a binary variable. So you can do it several ways. If it's individual people, you could just individual students, you could just say 1 if they completed college, 0 if they did not. You could also create a binary classification. So let's say that it gets a 1 if it's above the median, 0 if it's below the median. How you define that dependent variable is completely up to you. It's just making sure you're transparent in how you write about it, how you explain it, and so on and so forth. But the dependent variable is up to you, how you want to actually conceptualize it and code it, and what you want to use for that. So you might want to think about just trying to rethink that dependent variable to make it a bit easier on yourself. Okay. Thanks, Well. You're very, very welcome. Adrian asks, what aspects of stats should I focus on to get into biostats? So I'm not a biostatistician at all. I thought I had a book over there on biostats. So I'm not the greatest resource for this necessarily, but all the traditional sorts of things. But also if they see other types of biostats, so genomic biostats is something you might want to look into. Survival analysis is something you might want to look into. Biostats can often use different sort of modelings to do biostats, and sometimes it can depend on what flavor of biostats you might want to do. But I think all the traditional stats is necessary, but then you might want to specialize in a few additional things sort of on the periphery of that. All right. Let you new to you, Brandon. This is very useful. Going back to watch all of your live chats. Excellent. I think this is what 30th episode. So there's plenty to go back and watch if you really want to. You're going to hear me say a lot of the same things, until she's sorry, but you can fast forward through all the stuff you've heard before. But thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's much clearer now. Yeah, excellent. In general, I would say, I think one of the important things is to make models as simple as possible, to really look at making decisions and how the problem is set up to make it as simple as possible. Unless you're doing some massive enterprise, I'm not talking about the Netflix algorithm here, right? I'm talking about just traditional research sort of studies. To keep things as simple as possible, to keep our variables as simple as possible, to only put variables into our models that actually are meaningful, to make our variables into continuous or binary or create dummy variables, again, in the realm of traditional stats. So, yeah. All right. You are very welcome. Hi, Desna. How are you doing? Good to see you. I'd like to see more quantitative research topics such as validity and reliability methodology. It's funny you say that. that is something I am looking into. I have several research methods books that I like. I'm thinking about doing some more things along those lines. One of the things that makes those things tough is they're more while it's about quantitative research, making videos about those things are more qualitative, right? So it's really hard to perform that in like a video. Um, so um, that's not. I think they're upstairs because what happens is I have books down here in the basement, and then I want to look at them, so I take them off the shelf and I take them upstairs or somewhere else like that. Um, but yeah, one of my favorites actually is a book that's really hard to find anymore because I think it's out of print. But I got it, many years ago when I was doing some graduate work. But it talks about all those sorts of things. But honestly, any sort of research methodology book will cover all those sorts of things. Study designs, sometimes discipline specific books. So, like, for example, you can find a marketing research book that talks about validity and reliability and stuff like that, design of experiments, stuff like that. So sometimes you can find this content within a book about research in that field. So marketing was the one I just used because I have a marketing book somewhere that actually talks about that stuff. So if you want, Destin, reach out to me and I can maybe just kind of give you a short list if you want. All right, so we're almost at an hour. I think I've answered pretty much all the questions here in the chat. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. We'll hit right at an hour. So I'll be back in 2 weeks, which is the 18th of June. So 2 weeks from now, barring anything happening that's weird, I'll be back. And then the 2 weeks after that, I may or may not stream that weekend because the next weekend is July 4th weekend here in the US. So I might push it back a week, depending on what's going on that sort of weekend. But if so, it's only going to be by a week. But it's a holiday weekend. It's a long holiday weekend, so I may or may not stream that weekend. But I will be back in 2 weeks on June 18th. So, yeah, if you need to follow with me on LinkedIn or send me a comment through my website. I do my best to keep track of all that stuff, but as you can imagine, I get comments on YouTube, I get messages on LinkedIn, I get emails from my website, and it's really hard for me to keep up with all that sometimes. So you might have to pester me, but I'll do my best to respond. So I'm going to get out of here and enjoy this beautiful sunny day here in Cincinnati. And I thank you all again for stopping by. And I wish you all the best in life and everything else until I see you again. So I will see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.